Saturday, June 6th, 2026. Today's World News Headline Summary. 1. CNN. CNN의 영어 내용은 1-1. House Democrats strongly oppose new ICE funding bill. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries explicitly voiced his strong opposition to a proposed $70 billion legislative bill intended to fully fund Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. During a recent interview, Jeffries systematically argued that such a vast amount of taxpayer dollars should ideally be reallocated to make everyday life more affordable for American citizens suffering from a high cost of living. He severely criticized the opposing Republican Party, claiming they act merely as a reckless rubber stamp for extreme and highly partisan political agendas, without delivering tangible benefits to the public. Furthermore, Jeffries underscored the Democratic Party's unwavering commitment to reclaiming the majority in the House of Representatives in the upcoming elections. This escalating partisan conflict perfectly illustrates the deep systemic divisions within the United States concerning border security measures and federal resource distribution. Vocabulary: explicitly. Adverb, 명시적으로, 분명하게. The contract explicitly prohibits subletting the apartment to third parties. Opposition, noun, 반대, 항의. There was strong opposition from local residents regarding the new highway project. Legislative, adjective, 입법의, 법률을 제정하는. The government introduced a new legislative framework to protect consumer rights. Reallocate. Verb. 재할당하다. 재분배하다. The board decided to reallocate the remaining funds to the marketing department. Affordable. Adjective. 가격이 감당할 수 있는. 저렴한. The city is desperately trying to build more affordable housing for low-income families. Reckless. Adjective. 무모한. 신중하지 못한. His reckless driving behavior eventually led to a severe traffic accident. Rubber stamp. Noun. 비판 없이 승인만 하는 거수기. The committee was accused of being nothing more than a rubber stamp for the CEO. Tangible. Adjective. 가시적인, 유형의, 명백한. The new policy has not yet produced any tangible benefits for the local community. Underscore. Verb. 강조하다, 분명히 보여주다. The recent economic crisis underscores the urgent need for financial reform. Unwavering. Adjective. 확고한, 변함없는. She has shown unwavering dedication to her rigorous training schedule. 시사 용어 해설. 미국 정치에서 등장하는 ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement는 국토안보부 산하의 이민 세관 집행국을 의미합니다. 불법 이민자 체포, 구금 및 추방을 주도하는 기관으로 예산 배정과 권한 남용 문제는 미국 내 진보와 보수 진영 간의 가장 첨예한 정치적 갈등 요소 중 하나로 작용하고 있습니다. UK's Starmer criticizes Vance over election interference remarks. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has publicly criticized aggressive attempts to interfere in British democratic processes following highly controversial remarks made by U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance. Vice President Vance recently waded into a sensitive national debate by explicitly linking the tragic murder of an 18-year-old student, Henry Nowak, to the failure to stop the flow of mass migration. This isolated criminal incident, which already sparked a massive national outcry, has unfortunately been co-opted by various far-right organizations to unfairly accuse British institutions of inherent bias. In swift response, Downing Street released a stern public statement warning against foreign political figures trying to interfere in our democracy and seeking to stir up division on our streets. This diplomatic friction significantly underscores the highly volatile nature of domestic immigration policies when subjected to intense foreign political scrutiny. Vocabulary: interfere, verb, 간섭하다, 개입하다. Foreign governments should never interfere in the democratic elections of another sovereign state. Controversial. Adjective. 논란이 많은. The author's latest book tackles highly controversial topics regarding climate change. Please subscribe to my channel to get further videos. Wade into. Phrasal verb. 어려운 상황, 논쟁에 개입하다. The governor decided to wade into the fierce debate over healthcare reform. Explicitly. Adverb. 명백하게, 노골적으로. The instruction manual explicitly states not to immerse the electronic device in water. Outcry. Noun. 대중적인 항의, 격분. The sudden increase in public transport fares led to a massive public outcry. Co-opt. Verb. 자신의 목적을 위해 차용하다, 끌어들이다. The grassroots movement was unfortunately co-opted by established political parties. Inherent. Adjective. 내재된, 본질적인. Every investment in the stock market carries an inherent risk of losing money. Stir up. Phrasal verb. 감정, 논쟁 등을 불러일으키다, 조장하다. His controversial speech was deliberately designed to stir up anger among the workers. Friction. Noun. 마찰, 충돌. The ongoing trade dispute has caused severe diplomatic friction between the two allies. Scrutiny. Noun. 정밀 조사, 철저한 검토. The company's financial records are currently under close scrutiny by government auditors. 시사용어 해설. 다우닝 스트리트는 영국의 정치 1번지로 흔히 영국 총리 관저 10 다우닝 스트리트를 가리키는 대유법으로 쓰입니다. 기사에서 Downing Street released a statement 라고 하면 영국 총리실이 성명을 발표했다 라는 의미로 해석해야 자연스럽습니다. NASA directs ISS crew to board spacecraft amid leak repairs. NASA officially directed all active crew members aboard the International Space Station to immediately board their designated spacecraft as a strict precautionary measure. This unprecedented safety directive was issued precisely while specialized technical teams diligently attempted to locate and repair an ongoing pressure leak detected within the station's complex infrastructure. Although official reports indicated that the immediate physical danger to the astronauts remained relatively minimal, standard operational protocols mandate complete readiness for an emergency orbital departure. This tense incident prominently highlights the escalating operational difficulties universally associated with maintaining the rapidly aging modules of the ISS.
Space agencies worldwide are now facing mounting pressure to rigorously monitor orbital hardware to ensure absolute human safety in the harsh environment of space. Now, let us explore some key vocabulary terms from this news coverage to enhance our understanding. First, we have the verb designate, which means to officially choose or assign. For example, the manager will designate a specific area for employees to park their cars. Next is precautionary, an adjective referring to actions taken to prevent something unpleasant or dangerous. As an example, the school closed early as a precautionary measure against the approaching typhoon. The third word is unprecedented, an adjective describing something that has never happened or existed before. For instance, the global pandemic created an unprecedented crisis for the tourism industry.
Fourth is directive, a noun meaning an official instruction or order. For example, the health department issued a new directive concerning food handling safety. Fifth, we have the adverb diligently, which means showing care and effort in one's work. For example, the researchers worked diligently for years to find a cure for the rare disease. Our sixth term is infrastructure, a noun referring to the basic physical systems of a country or organization. For instance, the city must invest heavily in repairing its aging transportation infrastructure. Next is mandate, which can be used as a verb meaning to make something mandatory or give authority. For example, the new law mandates that all passengers must wear seatbelts while driving. The eighth word is orbital, an adjective relating to an orbit, particularly around the Earth. For example, the communication satellite successfully reached its correct orbital path yesterday. Ninth is escalate, a verb meaning to rapidly increase in intensity or severity. For example, the minor disagreement quickly escalated into a full-blown physical altercation. Finally, we have rigorously, an adverb meaning in an extremely thorough and careful way. For instance, all new medications must be rigorously tested before they are approved for public use. To provide some additional context on this issue, the International Space Station, commonly known as the ISS, is a collaborative space research facility jointly operated by the United States, Russia, Europe, Japan, and Canada. The Nauka module, a Russian multi-purpose laboratory module, has been a key part of this structure. However, due to the natural aging of the space station, several minor and major leaks have recently occurred. These incidents have raised deep concerns within the scientific community regarding the challenges of extending the operational lifespan of this vital orbital infrastructure. BBC 2.1. AI takes its first jab at preventing pandemics. Researchers at the University of Cambridge have ingeniously utilized advanced artificial intelligence to design a fundamentally new type of proactive vaccine aimed specifically at preventing future global pandemics. This remarkable breakthrough marks the very first time a vaccine's crucial key antigen has been engineered entirely by AI algorithms and subsequently trialed directly in human subjects. The highly innovative vaccine is strategically formulated to protect human populations against a broad and unpredictable spectrum of coronaviruses, including animal-borne viruses that possess the dangerous potential to trigger future outbreaks. Lead researcher Professor Heaney describes this unprecedented technological advancement as a fundamental shift in pandemic preparedness, intentionally shifting the scientific focus toward proactive defense rather than traditional reactive treatments. Early clinical trials involving 39 human participants are currently underway to strictly assess the foundational safety and overall efficacy of this groundbreaking AI-generated immunological solution. Vocabulary. Ingeniously. Adverb. The engineer ingeniously designed a water filtration system using only local materials. Fundamentally. Adverb. The discovery of penicillin fundamentally changed the course of modern medicine. Proactive. Adjective. Companies must take a proactive approach to protecting their data from cyber attacks. Breakthrough. Noun. The laboratory announced a major breakthrough in renewable energy storage technology generated immunological solution. Antigen. Noun. The patient's immune system immediately recognized the foreign antigen and produced antibodies. Formulate. Verb. The committee will formulate a new strategic plan to tackle youth unemployment. Unpredictable. Adjective. The weather in the mountains can be highly unpredictable during the spring season.
Reactive. Adjective. The government was criticized for its reactive policies instead of anticipating the crisis. Efficacy. Noun. The final phase of the clinical trial will determine the efficacy of the new cancer drug. Immunological. Adjective. The patient suffers from a rare immunological disorder that makes him prone to infections. AI. All.
2-2. Trump media dispute involving BBC defamation lawsuit. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is actively pursuing aggressive legal action against the British Broadcasting Corporation, BBC, over a highly publicized defamation claim. This contentious lawsuit stems directly from an October 2024 Panorama documentary, which Trump alleges irreparably damaged his political reputation. Trump's legal team recently filed a formal motion requesting the immediate removal of Magistrate Judge Angelique A. Lett, arguing she exhibits potential political bias. Although the BBC previously issued a formal apology regarding a specific editing mistake within the broadcast, the broadcaster firmly rejected any factual basis for a defamation lawsuit. Trump's representatives adamantly maintained that the BBC intentionally distorted his speech to maliciously frame his public persona, underscoring the escalating tensions between prominent political figures and major international news organizations. Vocabulary. Pursue. Verb. The detective decided to pursue a new line of inquiry to solve the mysterious case. Defamation. Noun. The famous actor sued the tabloid magazine for defamation of character and won damages. Contentious. Adjective. The allocation of the national budget is always a highly contentious issue in Parliament. Irreparably. Adverb. The severe oil spill irreparably damaged the delicate marine ecosystem. Magistrate. Noun. The local magistrate issued a search warrant based on the provided evidence. Bias. Noun. The study was heavily criticized for showing a clear bias against younger demographic groups. Adamantly. Adverb. The suspect adamantly denied any involvement in the elaborate financial fraud scheme. Distort. Verb. The acoustic panel prevents the sound from being distorted in the recording studio. Maliciously. Adverb. The software was maliciously designed to infiltrate and steal sensitive user data. Underscore. Verb. The tragic accident underscores the urgent need for better road safety measures. Defamation. Public figure. Actual malice. 20-3. Comprehensive estimate of Russian military casualties. An ongoing, highly meticulous joint investigation by independent outlet Mediazona and the BBC's Russian service is systematically compiling a verified, named list of Russian military casualties. This comprehensive demographic database heavily relies on publicly available sources, meticulously gathering data from social media posts by grieving relatives and fragmented regional media reports. Acknowledging the stark reality that public reports represent only a minute fraction of the true human toll, the researchers have developed an advanced statistical estimation method. They innovatively utilize the National Probate Registry data to calculate excess male mortality, thereby building a much more accurate and devastating picture of the war's fatal impact. This vital investigative initiative provides the international community with critical data-driven insight into the severe human cost of the ongoing geopolitical conflict. Vocabulary. Meticulous. Adjective. The restorer paid meticulous attention to every brushstroke on the ancient painting. Compile. Verb. The researcher spent over 6 months compiling relevant data for her final dissertation. Verify. Verb. The journalist must verify all the facts with multiple sources before publishing the article. Fragmented. Adjective. The documentary was built from fragmented video clips recovered from the old archives. Stark. Adjective. The stark contrast between the luxurious resort and the impoverished village was undeniable. Minute. Adjective. The forensic team found minute traces of blood on the suspect's clothing. Fraction. Noun. Only a tiny fraction of the global population has regular access to this new medical treatment.
Mortality. Noun. The infant mortality rate in the region has significantly decreased over the past decade. Devastating. Adjective. The devastating earthquake left thousands of people completely homeless and destitute. Initiative. Noun. The government launched a nationwide initiative to promote the use of renewable energy sources. Probate registry. Excess mortality.
3. ABC Australia. 3-1. RBA governor warns of delayed monetary policy effects. Reserve Bank of Australia Governor Michelle Bullock recently stated that the central bank's aggressive monetary tightening measures are finally beginning to show their intended cooling results. While appearing before the Senate Economics Committee, she cautiously projected that it will still take approximately 1 to 2 years for the full macroeconomic effects to flow completely through the broader economy. Bullock specifically noted that the rapid succession of rising interest rates has had a particularly swift effect on easing the previously overheated housing market. Furthermore, she directly addressed pressing concerns regarding potential negative equity among recent first-time homebuyers, confirming that the bank's financial stability team is closely monitoring the evolving situation. Her detailed testimony clearly underscores the incredibly delicate balancing act central banks must currently maintain to curb inflation without inadvertently triggering a severe economic downturn. Vocabulary. Aggressive. Adjective. 공격적인, 적극적인. The company launched an aggressive marketing campaign to dominate the digital landscape. Tightening. Noun. 김축, 조임. Economic tightening often leads to a noticeable decrease in household consumer spending. Cautiously. Adverb. 조심스럽게. The economic analyst cautiously predicted a slow but steady recovery by the end of the year. Approximately. Adverb. 대략. The long-haul flight will take approximately 12 hours to reach its final destination. Macroeconomic. Adjective. 거시경제. The professor explained how macroeconomic trends, such as inflation, affect individual savings. Overheated. Adjective. 과열된. The government decisively intervened to cool down the overheated commercial property market. Equity. Noun. 자산가치, 지분. By consistently paying off her mortgage, she built substantial equity in her suburban home. Underscore. Verb. 분명히 보여주다, 강조하다. The recent alarming data underscores the absolute necessity of a swift medical response. Inadvertently. Adverb. 무심코, 의도치 않게. He inadvertently deleted the crucial financial spreadsheet while trying to clear his desktop. Downturn. Noun. 하락, 경기 침체. The global automotive industry suffered greatly during the recent severe economic downturn. Monetary tightening, 통화 긴축은 중앙은행이 시중의 통화량을 줄여 물가를 안정시키기 위해 금리를 올리는 정책입니다. Negative equity, 마이너스 지분, 속칭 깡통주택은 주택담보대출, 모기지 잔액이 현재 주택의 시장 가치보다 커져서 집을 팔아도 빚을 다 갚지 못하는 상태를 뜻하며 금리 인상기에 부동산 가격이 하락할 때 흔히 발생하는 사회경제적 문제입니다. 3.2. Anthropic warns humanity approaching loss of AI control. Anthropic co-founder Jack Clark recently issued a stark public warning that humanity is precariously close to entirely losing control over these extraordinarily powerful systems. Clark pointed out that modern AI iterations are increasingly demonstrating the frightening ability to build themselves and autonomously write their own complex source codes. He emphasized that the technology may very soon reach an irreversible tipping point where continuous human input is rendered completely obsolete. This alarming and candid assessment from a prominent industry insider adds significant, undeniable weight to the escalating global debate regarding the ethical regulation and existential safety of advanced artificial intelligence. Vocabulary. Advocate. Verb. 옹호하다, 지지하다. The nonprofit organization strongly advocates for better healthcare services for the elderly. Deliberate. Adjective. 의도적인, 신중한. The manager made a deliberate choice to delay the product launch to ensure higher quality. Unchecked. Adjective. 억제되지 않은, 점검받지 않은. The unchecked growth of the invasive plant species is threatening the local ecosystem. Stark.
Adjective. 냉혹한, 확연한. The stark reality of the financial situation forced them to change their plans completely. Precariously. Adverb. 위태롭게. The expensive antique vase was balanced precariously on the very edge of the glass table. Iteration. Noun. 반복. 컴퓨터. 반복 모델. The latest iteration of the smartphone features a significantly improved camera system. Autonomously. Adverb. 자유적으로. The newly developed delivery drones can navigate urban environments autonomously. Tipping point. Noun. 임계점, 전환점. Environmentalists warn that the global climate crisis may have already reached a dangerous tipping point. Obsolete. Adjective. 쓸모없어진, 구시계. The rapid invention and adoption of smartphones rendered many traditional digital cameras obsolete. Existential. Adjective. 존재론적임, 생존과 관련된. Climate change is increasingly viewed as an existential threat to many low-lying island nations. 시사용어 해설. Tipping point. 임계점은 어떠한 현상이 서서히 진행되다가 작은 요인으로 인해 한순간 폭발적으로 변화하여 돌이킬 수 없는 상태가 되는 지점을 뜻합니다. AI 분야에서는 인공지능이 스스로 자신보다 더 뛰어난 지능을 만들어내는 특이점, singularity와 유사한 맥락으로 쓰이고 있습니다.
3-3. NSW police officer sentenced over fatal crash. A New South Wales police officer, Benedict Bryant, has controversially avoided jail time regarding a fatal traffic crash that tragically killed a 16-year-old Indigenous boy in Sydney. The young victim, Jai Kalani Wright, died in the hospital after suffering extremely serious head injuries when his ridden motorbike fiercely collided with an unmarked police car. Although Bryant was formally found guilty of dangerous driving occasioning death during a 2025 trial, the court ultimately ordered him to serve an intensive corrective order combined with 500 hours of community service. The leniency of the sentence has triggered profound anger and disappointment among Indigenous communities and civil rights advocates across the nation. They argue that the justice system repeatedly fails to hold law enforcement fully accountable when marginalized groups are involved, thereby demanding urgent systemic legal reforms. Vocabulary. Controversially. Adverb. The referee controversially disallowed the winning goal in the final minute of the match. Fatal. Adjective. The driver sustained fatal injuries after losing control of his vehicle on the icy road. Indigenous. Adjective. The museum features a fascinating exhibition dedicated to the history of Indigenous peoples. Fiercely. Adverb. The two political candidates debated fiercely over the new taxation policy on live television. Collide. Verb. The speeding truck collided violently with the concrete barrier on the highway. Occasioning. Participle/adjective. He was charged with assault occasioning actual bodily harm after the bar fight. Intensive. Adjective. The patient requires an intensive care unit to monitor his unstable heart condition. Leniency. Noun. The judge showed surprising leniency given the severity of the defendant's previous crimes. Marginalized. Adjective. The charity focuses on providing essential educational resources to marginalized urban communities. Systemic. Adjective. The economic report highlights the systemic issues within the nation's healthcare funding model. Intensive corrective order. Dangerous driving occasioning death.
4. The Korea Times. 4-1. Seoul Mayor Oh Se-hoon defies exit polls to retain office. Incumbent Seoul Mayor Oh Se-hoon has secured a dramatic and highly significant victory in the recent local elections, successfully and unexpectedly defying early exit poll projections. Initially trailing noticeably behind his liberal rival, Chung Won-oh of the Democratic Party of Korea, Oh steadily erased the voting deficit throughout the tense night to complete a stunning come-from-behind win. The intensely contested, razor-thin race saw Oh eventually secure 48.94% of the total vote, narrowly defeating Chung's 48.34% after roughly 13 hours of counting. Following the definitive confirmation of the mathematical results, Chung humbly conceded the election to the media and graciously congratulated Oh on his continued municipal leadership. This hard-fought retention of the prestigious mayor's office is widely expected to significantly solidify Oh's political standing and future influence within the conservative People Power Party. Vocabulary. Incumbent. Noun, adjective. Shosok. The incumbent president is running for a second term in office despite low approval ratings.
Defy. Verb. 뭐뭐에 대항하다. The gymnast's incredibly flawless routine seemed to defy the very laws of gravity. Projection. Noun. 전망. Economic projections from the central bank indicate a steady recovery in the third quarter. Noticeably. Adverb. 매우. The quality of the air has noticeably improved since the new emissions laws were introduced. Deficit. Noun. 적자. The company worked diligently to reduce its annual financial deficit through aggressive cost cutting. Razor thin. Adjective. 익소소한. The candidate miraculously won the local election by a razor-thin margin of just 500 votes. Concede. Verb. 인정하다. After the referee blew the final whistle, the losing team graciously conceded defeat. Graciously. Adverb. 공손히. The famous actress graciously accepted the prestigious award on behalf of the entire cast. Retention. Noun. 유지. Employee retention has become a major challenge for many highly competitive tech companies. Solidify. Verb. 홍고히 하다. The successful completion of the massive project helped solidify her reputation as a capable manager. Exit poll. 출입조사. Come from behind win. 역전승.
4.2. Police clear protesters over ballot shortage turmoil. South Korean riot police forcibly cleared angry protesters from a prominent Seoul polling station following a remarkably tense 35-hour physical blockade. The massive, spontaneous demonstration was originally sparked by a wholly unexpected shortage of ballot papers during the recent local elections, a logistical failure which severely disrupted the entire voting process. Facing immense public backlash, the South Korean National Election Commission officially apologized on national television, blatantly admitting to an absurd mistake in failing to accurately anticipate the high voter turnout. Frustrated protesters, forcefully demanding an immediate election rerun and the total invalidation of the questionable votes, physically blocked election officials from transporting secured ballot boxes to designated counting centers. This intense, drawn-out standoff dramatically highlights a rapidly growing crisis of public trust in the administrative competence and transparency of the nation's democratic electoral process. Vocabulary. Riot. Noun. The initially peaceful street protest quickly escalated into a violent and destructive riot. Forcibly. Adverb. The intruders were forcibly removed from the private property by the security guards. Blockade. Noun. The military navy established a tight blockade around the Rogue Island's main port. Spontaneous. Adjective. The crowd burst into spontaneous applause when the beloved singer walked onto the stage. Logistical. Adjective. Organizing a massive outdoor concert involves solving numerous complex logistical challenges. Absurd. Adjective. The ridiculous accusation that he stole the corporate vehicle is completely absurd. Anticipate. Verb. The event organizers did not anticipate such a huge crowd at the free outdoor concert. Invalidation. Noun. The shocking discovery of tampered evidence inevitably led to the invalidation of the trial. Drawn out. Adjective. The drawn-out legal battle completely exhausted the financial resources of both families. Competence. Noun. The new manager has repeatedly demonstrated her strong competence in resolving disputes. Voter turnout. Rerun.
4.3. Chinese leader Xi Jinping to visit North Korea next week. Chinese President Xi Jinping is officially scheduled to make a highly anticipated state visit to North Korea next week, marking his monumental first trip to Pyongyang in nearly 7 years. This crucial bilateral summit is widely and critically viewed by geopolitical experts as a deliberate strategic maneuver by Beijing to firmly reassert its regional influence, especially as North Korea continues to build significantly closer military ties with Russia amid the ongoing Ukraine conflict. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson emphasized in a briefing that the historic visit aims to actively advance traditional friendly relations and actively strengthen regional peace and stability. Notably, the diplomatic announcement closely follows North Korea's provocative recent unveiling of a new, highly secretive facility that international observers heavily suspect is intended for producing weapons-grade enriched uranium.
Global analysts strongly suggest that China is urgently seeking to safeguard its core strategic and economic interests in Northeast Asia amidst rapidly shifting and unpredictable global alliances. Vocabulary: state visit. Noun: the monarch will elegantly host a formal state banquet during the president's state visit. Monumental. Adjective: the invention of the printing press was a monumental achievement for human civilization. Bilateral. Adjective: the two neighboring nations successfully signed a new bilateral agreement on clean energy trade. Maneuver. Noun: the company's sudden merger was a clever business maneuver intended to crush its competitors. Reassert. Verb: the newly appointed CEO quickly acted to reassert control over the struggling corporation. Provocative. Adjective: the politician's deliberately provocative comments sparked a furious debate in the parliament. Unveiling. Noun: the highly anticipated unveiling of the new electric vehicle drew thousands of excited journalists. Enrich. Verb: scientists must enrich the raw uranium before it can be effectively used in a nuclear reactor. Safeguard. Verb: the strict privacy regulations were specifically implemented to safeguard the personal data of users. Alliance. Noun: the fragile military alliance between the three countries was severely tested during the border crisis. State visit. Saimgray. Weapons-grade enriched uranium. Uranium ibek ishibsham uranium kushit percentage hang huangkungol bujinin kwango morlosa.
5. The Korea Herald. 5-1. Korean won plunges to 17-year low amid stock market sell-off. The South Korean won dramatically and troublingly weakened past the critical 1560 per dollar threshold during overnight trading, sinking dangerously to its absolute lowest level in over 17 years since the 2009 financial crisis. This rapid and painful depreciation was primarily triggered by significantly stronger than expected U.S. employment data, which solidly reinforced global market expectations that the Federal Reserve will stubbornly maintain high interest rates for an extended period. Additionally, the vulnerable local currency faced relentlessly mounting downward pressure from a broad-based strengthening of the U.S. dollar and prolonged, unpredictable geopolitical conflicts escalating in the Middle East. Domestic financial markets also suffered heavily simultaneously, as a massive, panicky sell-off of Korean tech equities by foreign investors unceremoniously dragged the benchmark Kospi index down by more than 5.4% in a single day. The severe concurrent decline of both the national currency and the major stock market glaringly highlights the significant structural vulnerabilities embedded within the export-driven local economy. Vocabulary. Threshold. Noun. The advanced heart rate monitor instantly alerts the user when the pulse crosses a certain dangerous threshold. Depreciation. Noun. The rapid and unexpected depreciation of the local currency made imported essential goods very expensive. Trigger. Verb. The sudden loud explosion noise triggered a massive panic among the animals in the crowded zoo. Stubbornly. Adverb. Despite the overwhelming evidence, he stubbornly refused to admit that he had made a mistake. Vulnerable. Adjective. The outdated computer network is highly vulnerable to sophisticated external cyber attacks. Relentlessly. Adverb. The heavy winter rain beat relentlessly against the thin window pane all night long. Prolonged. Adjective. Prolonged exposure to extreme midday sunlight can cause severe and lasting skin damage. Sell-off. Noun. The extremely negative earnings report sparked a massive, uncontrollable sell-off in the stock market. Benchmark. Noun. The innovative new smartphone set an incredibly high benchmark for battery life in the tech industry. Concurrent. Adjective. The exhausted patient was unfortunately suffering from 2 severe concurrent viral illnesses. Federal Reserve. Fed. Aggredation. Fault. Depreciation. Fault.
President Lee honors fallen troops at Memorial Day ceremony. President Lee Jae-myung delivered a profoundly moving and poignant speech at the National Memorial Day ceremony, solemnly held at the Seoul National Cemetery, heavily emphasizing that properly honoring fallen service members is a vital and inescapable social duty for the nation.
He paid his deepest and most profound respect to the countless heroes who bravely sacrificed their precious lives for the country's arduous independence and steadfast defense, addressing a massive audience consisting of proud veterans, high-ranking officials, and grieving families. Just a single day prior, Lee actively highlighted the exceptional and enduring strength of the South Korea-U.S. alliance during an incredibly emotional joint repatriation ceremony specifically for Korean War remains. He passionately stated that the mutual, dedicated recovery and return of fallen troops across the ocean represent the most powerful testament to the unwavering alliance forged deeply in blood. These consecutive, solemn commemorative events perfectly underscore the nation's ongoing, deeply rooted commitment to constantly remembering its painful history while actively supporting its crucial international partnerships. To help you better understand this report, let us review some of the key vocabulary. First is the adverb profoundly, which means deeply or completely. For example, the elderly professor was profoundly moved by the heartfelt letter from his former students. Next is the adjective poignant, which means deeply moving or touching. For example, the historic documentary ended with a deeply poignant scene that brought the audience to tears.
Third is the adverb solemnly, which means seriously or formally. For example, the judge solemnly read the final verdict to the completely silent courtroom. Fourth is the adjective arduous, which means difficult and demanding. For example, climbing the steep and rocky mountain peak was an arduous task that tested their endurance. Fifth is the adjective steadfast, which means unwavering and firm. For example, she remained a steadfast supporter of the charitable cause, despite the numerous public criticisms. Sixth is the adjective grieving, which means feeling deep sorrow or mourning. For example, the entire tight-knit community rallied together to generously support the grieving family after the fire. Seventh is the noun repatriation, which refers to the return of someone or something to their country of origin. For example, the government successfully negotiated the safe and swift repatriation of the political hostages. Eighth is the noun testament, which means proof or evidence of something. For example, her rapid corporate promotion is a clear testament to her extraordinary and unmatched work ethic. Ninth is the adjective commemorative, which means serving to honor or remember an event. For example, a beautifully designed special commemorative stamp was officially issued for the national holiday. And 10th is the adjective rooted, which means deeply established or firmly implanted. For example, the community's local traditions are deeply rooted in centuries of fascinating cultural history. Now, let us look at some additional context regarding the terminology used in this news. The term repatriation refers to the act of returning prisoners of war, the remains of fallen soldiers, or assets taken abroad back to their country of origin. In current affairs, the joint repatriation ceremony of military remains between South Korea and the United States is highly regarded as a representative military and diplomatic event that symbolizes the strong blood alliance between the two nations. 5-3. OECD가 삼성자 코리아의 경제 성장 전망을 상향 조정했습니다. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, has significantly and confidently raised South Korea's macroeconomic growth outlook for the current year to an impressive 2.6%, a sharp increase from a previous sluggish estimate of just 1.7%. This highly optimistic upward revision is largely attributed to the country's remarkably robust and resilient semiconductor exports, which have massively surged amid the unprecedented global artificial intelligence boom. This highly optimistic upward revision is largely attributed to the country's remarkably robust and resilient semiconductor exports, which have massively surged amid the unprecedented global artificial intelligence boom. Verified government data clearly reveals that South Korea's overall outbound shipments reached a staggering record high of $87.8 billion in May alone,
propelled primarily by a breathtaking 169% year-on-year increase in advanced memory chip exports.
The Paris-based international organization explicitly expects the flourishing semiconductor industry to continue powerfully driving domestic capital investment and overall national economic expansion. Furthermore, coordinated government efforts to artificially cap fuel prices are credited with successfully easing domestic inflation slightly, thereby stabilizing the broader and more fragile economic environment. Vocabulary: sluggish. Adjective: 부진한, 느릿느릿한. The retail sector experienced sluggish sales growth during the prolonged economic recession. Optimistic. Adjective: 낙관적인. Despite the numerous initial setbacks, the entire team remained optimistic about the final project. Attribute. Verb. 뭐뭐의 탓, 덕으로 돌리다. The successful entrepreneur attributes his immense wealth to hard work and continuous learning. Robust. Adjective: 탄탄한, 원기왕성한. The manufacturing company reported incredibly robust sales figures during the peak holiday season. Surge. Verb. 급증하다, 밀려들다. Online consumer orders surged immediately after the aggressive digital marketing campaign launched. Unprecedented. Adjective: 전례 없는. The city experienced an unprecedented level of heavy rainfall that completely flooded the downtown area. Staggering. Adjective: 믿기 어려운, 놀라운. The massive hurricane caused a staggering amount of structural damage to the small coastal towns. Propel. Verb. 나아가게 하다, 몰고 가다. The powerful new engine will heavily propel the experimental rocket into the Earth's upper atmosphere. Flourishing. Adjective: 번창하는, 호조를 보이는. The town is well known for its flourishing artistic community and numerous vibrant cultural festivals. Stabilize. Verb. 안정시키다. The emergency room doctor quickly administered medication to stabilize the critical patient's heart rate. 시사용어 해설. OECD, 경제협력개발기구는 주로 선진국들이 모여 경제 발전과 세계 무역 촉진을 논의하는 기구입니다. 기사 속 outbound shipments, 수출 선정물은 한 국가에서 해외로 나가는 화물의 총량을 의미하며 한국과 같은 수출 주도형 국가에서는 경제의 건강 상태를 진단하는 가장 기초적이고 중요한 지표입니다. 6. CGTN 6-1. China firmly opposes U.S. sanctions on Cuba. China has formally and vehemently expressed its firm opposition to the United States' recent aggressive move in significantly intensifying its economic blockade and targeted sanctions against Cuba. This fierce diplomatic backlash directly follows Washington's highly controversial decision to impose harsh personal sanctions directly on Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel, as well as members of his immediate family. A designated Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson sharply condemned the American maneuver as a blatant display of hegemonic and domineering behavior, forcefully arguing that it illegally infringes upon the Cuban people's fundamental right to independently survive and economically thrive. Beijing sternly warned that any calculated, malicious attempts by the U.S. to deliberately destabilize Cuba's government would ultimately backfire disastrously on the international geopolitical stage.
Concluding the statement, China reaffirmed its unwavering and historic support for Havana in relentlessly safeguarding its precious national sovereignty and security against any form of hostile external interference.
Vocabulary. Vehemently. Adverb. The political activist vehemently denied the false accusations made by the corrupt opposing party. Intensify. Verb. The military general decided to immediately intensify the airstrikes on the enemy's vital supply lines. Backlash. Noun. The strict new corporate dress code policy caused a massive and unexpected backlash among the employees. Hegemonic. Adjective. The superpower's hegemonic influence unfairly dictates the complex trade rules of the entire region. Domineering. Adjective. Her highly domineering personality made it extremely difficult for anyone to easily work with her. Infringe. Verb. Critics argue that the new mass surveillance laws seriously infringe upon ordinary citizens' right to privacy. Maliciously. Adverb. The destructive software virus was maliciously designed to secretly infiltrate and steal highly sensitive user data. Destabilize. Verb. Unverified rumors of an impending military coup attempt threaten to completely destabilize the entire country. Backfire. Verb. His devious plan to publicly embarrass his rival backfired spectacularly and ruined his own reputation instead. Unwavering. Adjective. She has consistently shown unwavering dedication to completing her rigorous and demanding training schedule. 6-2. U.S. forces strike Iranian coastal radar sites. In a remarkably rapid and highly dangerous escalation of Middle Eastern hostilities, U.S. military forces meticulously executed targeted defensive strikes against Iranian coastal surveillance radar sites, specifically located in Gorak and on the strategic Keshem Island. The U.S. Central Command publicly reported that this decisive military action was strictly taken after Iran aggressively launched 4 one-way attack drones directly toward the highly vital Strait of Hormuz. Alert American fighter aircraft successfully engaged and shot down all 4 explosive drones, well before they could strike their intended maritime targets. Defense authorities firmly justified the subsequent powerful airstrikes on the Iranian radar installations as an absolutely necessary defensive measure designed to protect vital regional maritime traffic from immediate and unprovoked threats. This explosive incident considerably heightens global fears of a much broader, uncontrollable regional conflict completely disrupting indispensable global shipping lanes. Vocabulary. Escalation. Noun. Frantic diplomatic efforts were made globally to prevent the sudden escalation of the bloody border conflict. Meticulously. Adverb. The highly skilled restorer paid meticulous attention to every single brushstroke on the ancient painting. Execute. Verb. The project manager instructed her dedicated team to execute the complex marketing plan perfectly. Surveillance. Noun. The central bank installed advanced surveillance cameras to actively deter any potential armed robberies. Decisive. Adjective. The quick-thinking commander took decisive action to safely rescue the terrified hostages from the building. Maritime. Adjective. The coastal country boasts a rich, fascinating maritime history dating back several thousands of years. Justify. Verb. He desperately tried to justify his continuous lateness to the meeting by merely blaming the heavy traffic. Installation. Noun. The secretive military installation was heavily guarded around the clock by elite armed personnel. Unprovoked. Adjective. The random, brutal attack on the innocent civilians in the square was entirely unprovoked. Indispensable. Adjective. A reliable internet connection has become absolutely indispensable for modern remote working environments. Strait of Hormuz. 6.3. China reports further improvement in ecological environment. China's Ministry of Ecology and Environment officially released the highly detailed 2025 China Ecological and Environmental Status Bulletin,
proudly showcasing substantial and continued improvements in the vast nation's overall environmental quality. The comprehensive, data-driven report specifically highlights significant, measurable reductions in severe air pollution, alongside notable nationwide enhancements in both water and soil quality. According to the meticulously collected government data, the average PM 2.5 concentration across 339 major prefecture-level cities successfully dropped to a healthier 29.3 micrograms per cubic meter in 2025. Furthermore, the government has successfully advanced critical rural sewage treatment initiatives and steadily increased the country's overall lush forest coverage. These highly positive environmental metrics strongly reflect Beijing's ongoing, unwavering commitment to achieving sustainable economic development while meeting its ambitious green policy targets. Vocabulary. Bulletin. Noun. 보고서, 공보. The local medical center issues a detailed weekly bulletin on current community health risks. Substantial. Adjective. 상당한, 실질적인. The diligent researcher found a substantial amount of compelling evidence to fully support her theory. Comprehensive. Adjective. 종합적인, 포괄적인. The prestigious university offers a highly comprehensive training program for newly hired teachers. Highlight. Verb. 강조하다. The informative presentation effectively highlighted the absolute importance of preserving natural habitats. Enhancement. Noun. 향상, 증진. The highly anticipated software update includes numerous vital security enhancements for its users. Concentration. Noun. 농도, 집중. Alarmingly high concentrations of toxic chemicals were tragically found in the contaminated river. Sewage. Noun. 하수, 오물. Disgusting raw sewage was illegally dumped into the ocean, severely harming innocent marine life. Coverage. Noun. 보도, 적용, 덮인 범위. The comprehensive insurance policy provides full coverage for extensive fire and water damage. Metric. Noun. 측정 기준, 지표. Annual sales growth is considered a key performance metric for accurately evaluating the company's success. Unwavering. Adjective. 변함없는, 확고한. The dedicated volunteer has consistently shown unwavering support for the local animal shelter.
환경 지표에서 자주 쓰이는 PM 2.5는 Particulate Matter 2.5의 약자로 입자의 크기가 2.5 마이크로미터 이하인 초미세먼지를 뜻합니다. 호흡기를 통해 폐 깊숙이 침투하기 때문에 국가 대기질 평가의 가장 핵심적인 매트릭, 지표로 활용됩니다. 7. NHK World Japan 7.1 Tropical storm Jangmi batters southwestern Japan. A severe tropical storm, which was formerly classified as the powerful typhoon Jangmi, relentlessly battered southwestern Japan, resulting in at least 15 unfortunate injuries. The fierce and unforgiving weather system brought torrential rains and violently strong winds, prompting urgent, large-scale evacuation advisories for hundreds of thousands of vulnerable residents due to severe flooding and deadly landslide risks. The immense storm's impact was widespread and devastating, rapidly knocking out power to tens of thousands of local homes and forcing the immediate cancellation of hundreds of scheduled domestic flights. As the swirling storm continued to rumble menacingly northeastward toward the densely populated capital of Tokyo, the Japan Meteorological Agency immediately issued strict, top-level hazard warnings. Local emergency authorities currently remain on exceedingly high alert, bracing for potential massive transport disruptions and ongoing life-threatening environmental hazards. Vocabulary. Relentlessly. Adverb. The relentless rain beat heavily and relentlessly against the fragile window pane all night long. Batter. Verb. The small coastal fishing town was severely battered by the massive, unexpected hurricane. Fierce. Adjective. A fierce, highly trained dog aggressively guarded the main entrance to the abandoned warehouse. Torrential. Adjective. Sudden torrential rain quickly flooded the basement and completely ruined several antique furniture pieces. Evacuation. Noun.
The loud fire alarm immediately triggered the swift evacuation of the entire towering office building. Advisory. Noun. The National Weather Service urgently issued a severe thunderstorm advisory for the southern region. Rumble. Verb. Heavy military tanks began to rumble loudly down the narrow cobblestone streets of the city. Menacingly. Adverb. The large, dark storm clouds gathered menacingly over the usually peaceful suburban neighborhood. Disruption. Noun. The unexpected global IT outage caused massive disruption to commercial flights worldwide. Hazard. Noun. Unregulated industrial smoking is widely known to be a highly serious public health hazard. Advisory. Watch. Warning. Evacuation advisory.
722. Japan aims to replace aging nuclear reactors. Japan has officially announced highly ambitious plans to systematically and securely replace its aging fleet of nuclear reactors by the 2050s, acting as a crucial component of a broader strategy to ensure absolute national energy security. Since the devastating and highly traumatic Fukushima disaster, Japan's overall nuclear capacity factor has recently rebounded robustly to its highest recorded level in over a decade. Notably, the Kashiwazaki Kariwa 6 nuclear reactor successfully and safely resumed full commercial operations after remaining entirely offline for more than 14 long years. However, the resilient country steadfastly maintains strict and uncompromising safety protocols, as clearly evidenced by the regulatory body's firm refusal to restart the Tsuruga 2 reactor due to lingering unresolved safety concerns. These complex, multifaceted developments highlight Japan's incredibly delicate transition toward utilizing advanced, next-generation nuclear technology while continuously balancing rigorous, world-class public safety standards. Vocabulary. Ambitious. Adjective. The tech company revealed an ambitious long-term plan to become completely carbon neutral by 2030. Systematically. Adverb. The dedicated librarian systematically cataloged all the newly arrived books by both author and genre. Rebound. Verb. Despite a remarkably poor start, the team's overall performance rebounded strongly in the second half. Robustly. Adverb. The nation's export economy has grown robustly over the past 5 years, despite global headwinds. Offline. Adverb/adjective. The main network server will be taken offline for essential maintenance during the weekend. Steadfastly. Adverb. She steadfastly refused to completely compromise her strong moral principles for financial gain. Protocol. Noun. Extremely strict safety protocols must be diligently followed when handling these hazardous chemicals. Linger. Verb. A faint, pleasant smell of expensive perfume lingered elegantly in the empty room. Multifaceted. Adjective. The ongoing climate crisis is a complex, multifaceted issue requiring global, coordinated solutions. Transition. Noun. The difficult transition from high school to university life can be highly challenging for many students. Nuclear capacity factor. Safety protocols.
7-3. China responds to global AI race dynamics. The Chinese Foreign Ministry recently addressed the highly complex and evolving dynamics of the global artificial intelligence race, which is currently primarily characterized by intense, high-stakes competition between China and the US. Spokesperson Mao Ning passionately emphasized that AI represents a revolutionary new frontier for all of humanity and should never be monopolized or selfishly dominated by a few major powers. She explicitly warned against the increasingly dangerous geopolitical trend of forming highly exclusive technological blocs that foster bitter rivalry instead of collaborative global progress. Strongly advocating for a humanistic, people-centered approach, Beijing is actively pushing for an open, entirely equal-footed, and strictly non-discriminatory AI governance structure on the world stage. To practically promote this broad, inclusive vision, China ambitiously plans to host the prominent World AI Conference in Shanghai, explicitly aiming to deepen essential global dialogue and mutual technological cooperation. Vocabulary. Dynamics. Noun. Yokkak. 원동력. Understanding complex family dynamics is absolutely crucial for resolving long-standing emotional conflicts. Characterize. Verb. 특징짓다. The famous Roaring Twenties was brightly characterized by rapid economic growth and vast cultural shifts. High stakes.
Adjective. 중대한, 위험 부담이 큰. The two massive corporations engaged in a high-stakes legal battle over the valuable patent rights. Monopolize. Verb. 독점하다. The massive, powerful corporation aggressively attempted to monopolize the entire global telecommunications market. Explicitly. Adverb. 명백하게, 노골적으로. The manager explicitly warned the staff not to share the highly confidential documents with outsiders to share. Exclusive. Adjective. 배타적인, 독점적인. Membership to the luxurious suburban golf club is highly exclusive and extremely expensive. Foster. Verb. 조성하다, 발전시키다. The experienced teacher tried hard to foster a positive, highly collaborative learning environment for her students. Rivalry. Noun. 경쟁. There is a notoriously bitter and long-standing rivalry between the two professional sports teams. Non-discriminatory. Adjective. 차별 없는. The progressive company claims to strictly uphold a completely non-discriminatory hiring process. Inclusive. Adjective. 포용적인, 모든 것을 포함하는. The diverse cultural festival aims to be completely inclusive, warmly welcoming people of all backgrounds.
AI 거버넌스는 AI 기술의 개발과 활용에 있어서 인류의 안전과 윤리를 보장하기 위해 각국 정부와 기업들이 합의하는 규범과 통제 체계를 뜻합니다. 강대국들이 기술 패권, 테크놀로지컬 블록스를 쥐기 위해 경쟁하는 가운데 이를 통제하기 위한 국제적 협력이 매우 절실해진 상황입니다. 8. Al Jazeera. 8-1. IAEA chief says next Iran nuclear deal will look different. Rafael Grossi, the outspoken Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has explicitly and publicly stated that the historic 2015 Iran nuclear deal is no longer a viable or workable framework for diplomacy. He acutely pointed out that Iran's underlying nuclear technology, enrichment processes, and overall strategic capabilities have advanced incredibly significantly since the original, heavily negotiated agreement was drafted. Consequently, simply attempting to revert strictly back to the old, outdated parameters would recklessly ignore the profound and undeniable changes currently present in Iran's modern nuclear infrastructure. Grossi heavily emphasized that any future comprehensive diplomatic agreement must accurately and realistically reflect today's stark geopolitical realities. This imperative includes properly and thoroughly addressing the severe, destabilizing impact of recent regional conflicts and the unprecedented heightened militarization spreading rapidly across the Middle East. Vocabulary. Outspoken. Adjective. The outspoken human rights activist bravely criticized the harsh government policies on live television. Explicitly. Adverb. The lease contract explicitly states that large pets are absolutely not allowed in the apartment. Viable. Adjective. The massive infrastructure project is simply not economically viable without significant foreign investment. Framework. Noun. The two opposing nations finally agreed on a basic mutual framework for the upcoming peace negotiations. Capability. Noun. The newly designed stealth fighter jet possesses incredibly advanced radar evasion capabilities. Revert. Verb. Without proper, consistent maintenance, the beautiful landscaped garden will quickly revert to a wild state. Parameter. Noun. The software engineers must carefully work within the specific technical parameters clearly set by the client. Profound. Adjective. The ancient philosopher's wise teachings had a profound and lasting influence on modern ethical society. Stark. Adjective. The stark, undeniable contrast between the ultra-rich and desperately poor neighborhoods was truly shocking. Militarization. Noun. The rapid, aggressive militarization of the disputed border caused widespread panic among the local citizens. Iran nuclear deal. JCPOA. 2015. Parameters. Grossi. 8-2. Strait of Hormuz opens with tight restrictions. Amidst rapidly escalating and highly volatile military tensions, Iran has officially announced that the critically important Strait of Hormuz is technically open, but intensely strict navigational restrictions heavily apply. High-ranking Iranian authorities boldly assert that all commercial vessels must closely and continuously coordinate with armed Iranian naval forces to navigate safely through potential deadly minefields and other severe wartime measures.
The narrow strait serves as a globally vital choke point, precariously handling approximately a quarter of all global seaborne oil trade, essential for the world economy. Despite Iran's highly conditional assurances that non-hostile international ships can pass without interference, many major international shipping companies naturally remain highly hesitant to risk the perilous transit. Consequently, the significantly heightened risk of sudden, unprovoked missile or drone attacks have severely constrained crucial global energy flows and astronomically driven up shipping transport costs. Vocabulary: volatile. Adjective: the stock market has been incredibly volatile recently due to unpredictable global political events. Navigational. Adjective: modern commercial ships rely heavily on advanced GPS technology for accurate navigational purposes. Assert. Verb: the confident defense lawyer consistently asserted her client's complete innocence throughout the entire trial. Coordinate. Verb: the international relief agencies are working closely together to coordinate the rapid delivery of medical supplies. Choke point. Noun: the busy Suez Canal is widely recognized as a major global choke point for international maritime trade. Conditional. Adjective: the bank offered him a conditional loan, which required him to secure a high-paying job first. Assurance. Noun: the CEO gave me his personal assurance that the delayed project would be finished perfectly on time. Hesitant. Adjective: she was understandably hesitant to accept the lucrative job offer because it required relocating abroad. Transit. Noun: the delicate electronic goods were unfortunately damaged while in transit to the overseas warehouse facility. Unprovoked. Adjective: the random, brutal attack on the peaceful civilians gathering in the square was entirely unprovoked. Choke point. Drive up. Costs. 8.3. Israel-Lebanon ceasefire marred by ongoing strikes. Despite a highly publicized, recently announced U.S.-brokered ceasefire framework, violent and destructive military strikes continue to mercilessly plague southern Lebanon. Israel and Lebanon supposedly and formally agreed to halt the devastating, prolonged war after a series of intense, high-level diplomatic meetings held in Washington, D.C. However, boots-on-the-ground local reports tragically confirm that aggressive Israeli airstrikes have repeatedly and accurately hit civilian vehicles and residential buildings, causing numerous heartbreaking casualties. Concurrently, Iran has firmly and stubbornly stated that any broader, comprehensive regional peace deal heavily and inherently depends on the complete, unconditional withdrawal of Israeli armed forces from sovereign Lebanese territory. The deeply jarring disconnect between formal, signed diplomatic agreements and the bloody, ongoing violence on the streets has raised serious, alarming questions regarding the actual enforcement and legitimacy of international ceasefire laws. Vocabulary: plague. Verb: the ambitious construction project was severely plagued by a severe lack of funding and constant delays. Supposedly. Adverb: the ancient painting is supposedly worth millions of dollars, but its true authenticity remains completely unverified. Devastating. Adjective: the massive 7.0 magnitude earthquake had a truly devastating effect on the small, isolated mountain village. Diplomatic. Adjective: the seasoned ambassador always relies on delicate diplomatic negotiations to peacefully resolve international conflicts. Casualty. Noun: the horrific multiple car crash on the highway resulted in 0 casualties, miraculously thanks to the advanced airbags. Comprehensive. Adjective: the university committee published a comprehensive report detailing all the complex flaws in the current educational system. Unconditional. Adjective: the victorious Allied forces demanded the immediate and unconditional surrender of the heavily surrounded enemy troops. Withdrawal. Noun: the commanding general finally ordered the immediate tactical withdrawal of all frontline troops from the active combat zone. Jarring. Adjective:
The extremely bright neon pink colors created a jarring, unpleasant contrast against the solemn, historic stone architecture. Enforcement. Noun. The strict and consistent enforcement of local traffic laws has significantly and visibly reduced the number of fatal accidents. Brokered. Brokering. 3. U.S. brokered ceasefire. Key. Boots on the ground. Disconnect.
9. CBC Canada. 9-1. Federation of Canadian Municipalities launches Defence Task Force. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, has proudly and strategically launched a brand new defense task force specifically designed to foster significantly better collaboration between Canadian cities and the federal government. As Canada decisively and significantly increases its national defense spending in response to global threats, this proactive initiative aims to perfectly position municipalities to play a much stronger, essential supporting role. Expanding military bases directly and heavily place intense pressure on core local infrastructure, ranging broadly from affordable housing shortages to public safety concerns. By bringing together diverse local partners, such as the RCMP and regional chambers of commerce, the specialized task force seeks to intelligently bridge critical logistical and service gaps. Mayors from across the country continually emphasize that robust, effective national defense readiness is fundamentally and undeniably built upon highly resilient, well-supported local communities. Vocabulary. Foster. Verb. 조성하다, 촉진하다. The dedicated mentor tried incredibly hard to foster a strong sense of confidence in his young, anxious students. Collaboration. Noun. 협력, 공동작업. The innovative new software was successfully developed through a close international collaboration between two tech giants. Decisively. Adverb. 단호하게, 결정적으로. The brave military commander acted decisively to completely secure the vulnerable perimeter around the base. Core. Adjective. 핵심적인, 가장 중요한. The struggling company urgently needs to refocus its efforts on its core business model to survive the deep recession. Chamber of Commerce. Noun. 상공회의소. The local Chamber of Commerce enthusiastically organized a large networking event for all the struggling small business owners. Bridge. Verb. 간격을 메우다, 이어주다. The new educational program successfully aims to bridge the widening gap between pure academic theory and practical application. Logistical. Adjective. 무유해, 병참해. Distributing the vital vaccines to the remote mountain villages presented a massive, complex logistical nightmare. Robust. Adjective. 탄탄한, 튼튼한. The dedicated Olympic athlete maintained an incredibly robust daily training schedule to perfectly prepare for the upcoming games. Readiness. Noun. 준비태세.
The frontline troops are currently in a state of high combat readiness, anxiously awaiting their final direct orders. Resilient. Adjective. 회복력 있는, 탄력 있는. Young children are surprisingly highly resilient and can usually quickly adapt to strange, new environments. 시사용어 해설. Task Force, 타스크포스, 특별팀은 특정한 목표나 임무를 달성하기 위해 임시로 편성된 전문가 집단을 의미합니다. 기사에서 언급된 RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police는 캐나다의 왕립 기마경찰로 연방경찰 역할을 수행하는 상징적인 치안기관입니다. 9-2. Cricket Canada World Cup qualifiers closed due to security concerns. All passionate spectators will be strictly and disappointingly banned from physically attending Canada's upcoming Men's Cricket World Cup League 2 qualifying matches due to rapidly escalating severe security concerns. Cricket Canada suddenly announced the unexpected cancellation and refunding of all sold tickets, publicly citing vague and unspecified, unforeseen circumstances for the drastic move. However, reliable inside sources strongly indicate that the visiting Dutch national team specifically and formally expressed deep fears regarding their physical safety during the international tournament. This drastic and highly unusual decision directly follows a highly turbulent and dangerous period for the sports organization, alarmingly highlighted by recent extortion-related drive-by shootings specifically targeting the private suburban home of Cricket Canada's current president.
The grim situation has deeply disappointed professional players and loyal fans alike, darkly overshadowing the celebrated sporting event with extremely serious real-world criminal threats. Vocabulary: spectator, noun. The large modern stadium was completely packed with tens of thousands of enthusiastic cheering spectators. Strict, adjective. The prestigious private school relentlessly enforces a very strict traditional dress code policy for all students. Unseen, unforeseen, adjective. The ambitious construction project was heavily delayed due to several complex, unforeseen technical complications. Drastic, adjective. The Failing Company took incredibly drastic, painful measures to cut internal costs and barely avoid bankruptcy. Turbulent, adjective. The experienced pilot calmly warned passengers of a highly turbulent flight ahead due to an approaching winter storm. Extortion, noun. The notorious organized gang was finally arrested and heavily charged with violent extortion and systemic money laundering. Drive-by, noun/adjective. The quiet suburban neighborhood was deeply shocked by a sudden terrifying drive-by shooting incident late at night. Grim, adjective. The police officer wore a very grim expression as he delivered the tragic, heartbreaking news to the victim's family. Overshadow, verb. Her brilliant award-winning acting performance was unfortunately totally overshadowed by her co-star's shocking public scandal. Threat, noun. The severe approaching winter weather poses a highly significant threat to the isolated coastal fishing communities. Extortion, match-fixing. Match-fixing, match-fixing great.
9.3. Calgary reports 23% loss of treated water to pipe leaks last year. Senior city officials in Calgary officially reported a truly staggering and wasteful loss of exactly 23% of the entire municipality's expensively treated water, strictly due to hidden underground pipe leaks last year. This alarming figure is notably and worryingly higher than the overall Canadian national average of 17%, and significantly worse than neighboring Edmonton's relatively efficient 5% loss rate. Engineering experts carefully explain that Calgary's unique gravel-heavy soil composition makes early leak detection exceptionally difficult, as the escaping water frustratingly drips far downward rather than pooling visibly on the street surface. In direct response to this crisis, City Council members are seriously considering heavily and urgently investing in massive infrastructure repairs. They logically argue that comprehensively fixing the existing widespread leaks is far more economically cost-effective in the long term than simply constructing an entirely new multi-million-dollar water treatment plant. Vocabulary: staggering, adjective. The resilient basketball team miraculously overcame a staggering 15-point deficit in the highly intense final quarter. Treated, adjective. The municipal water facility meticulously ensures that all tap water is highly treated and completely safe to drink. Notably, adverb. The weather throughout this particular winter has been notably warmer and drier than in any previous years. Exceptionally, adverb. The highly rated famous downtown restaurant is always exceptionally busy and crowded on Friday nights. Detection, noun. The successful early detection of the malignant disease significantly increases the patient's chances of a full recovery. Pool, verb. Immediately after the incredibly heavy rain, dirty water began to pool dangerously in the shallow depressions on the road. Frustratingly, adverb. The complicated instructions for assembling the new furniture were frustratingly vague and difficult to understand. Comprehensively, adverb. The brilliant lawyer comprehensively reviewed every single page of the massive, highly complex legal contract. Cost-effective, adjective. Installing modern solar panels is a highly cost-effective, long-term solution for significantly reducing household electricity bills. Construct, verb. The rapidly growing city plans to safely construct a massive new suspension bridge across the wide Main River. Costeffective.co, cost, effect, adling, Addison, ca, at, ARE, capex, capac. 10. DD India. 10.1. India showcases carbon credit trading scheme at WTO. On World Environment Day, India proudly hosted a highly significant special showcase event at the World Trade Organization, WTO, in Geneva to officially present its National Carbon Credit Trading Scheme, CCTS. The detailed presentation clearly highlighted the country's proactive, massive steps toward a successful clean energy transition and highly sustainable long-term economic development. Remarkably, India has achieved its key climate targets well ahead of the originally stipulated schedule, including impressively reaching a 53.21% share of non-fossil fuel electricity generation nearly 5 years early. The educational event heavily underscored India's intelligent strategy to cleverly utilize market-based financial instruments to strongly incentivize corporate greenhouse gas emission reductions across various heavy industries. Ultimately, it served as a vital, influential platform to openly share India's successful domestic regulatory initiatives and its rapidly evolving carbon market architecture with the broader international community. Vocabulary. Showcase. Verb. The massive annual tech fair proudly showcases the absolute latest innovations in consumer electronics. Proactive. Adjective. The experienced manager took a highly proactive approach to completely prevent any safety hazards in the factory. Transition. Noun. The unusually sudden transition from deep winter to warm spring caught many local people completely by surprise. Remarkably. Adverb. The young, talented musical prodigy played the incredibly difficult piano piece remarkably well for her age. Stipulate. Verb. The strict legal contract clearly stipulates that all due payments must be securely made by the end of the month. Instrument. Noun. Quality public education is universally recognized as an incredibly powerful instrument for positive social change. Incentivize. Verb. The new government will strongly incentivize green businesses to hire more eager young workers. Architecture. Noun. The entire software architecture needs to be completely redesigned from scratch to handle more web traffic. Evolving. Adjective. The agile company must quickly adapt to the constantly evolving, unpredictable demands of the global market. Initiative. Noun. The bold new environmental initiative aims to successfully plant over 1 million trees by the end of this year. Okay. Carbon credit trading scheme. Market-based instruments. Incentivize.
10.2. Middle East conflict pushing millions into hunger. The UN World Food Programme, WFP, has issued a dire warning that the rapidly expanding, volatile Middle East conflict is quickly pushing millions of highly vulnerable people dangerously closer to extreme hunger. The ongoing severe disruption of key global shipping routes, most notably the strategic Strait of Hormuz, has sharply constrained essential energy flows and massively spiked global fuel prices. These skyrocketing, unpredictable transport costs have directly and brutally translated into exorbitant everyday food prices, completely devastating ordinary households in heavily import-reliant nations like Afghanistan and Somalia. Compounding this heartbreaking crisis is a very severe, unexpected funding shortfall that is forcing major international aid agencies to drastically scale back their critical life-saving assistance. The WFP grimly and pessimistically projects that the limited supplies of highly nutritious food meant for severely malnourished children could completely run out entirely within just a few short months. Vocabulary. Dire. Adjective. The humanitarian organization issued a dire warning about the rapidly approaching, devastating famine. Vulnerable. Adjective. The sick and elderly are particularly vulnerable to extreme heat exhaustion during the harsh summer. Disruption. Noun. The massive global IT software outage caused severe, widespread disruption to commercial flights worldwide. Constrain. Verb. Severe corporate budget cuts will heavily constrain our ability to hire new, talented staff this year. Skyrocket. Verb. Prime real estate prices skyrocketed exponentially in the city center due to incredibly high demand. Exorbitant. Adjective. The luxury 5-star hotel charges an exorbitant, unbelievable fee just for using the internet in the lobby. Reliant. Adjective. The small, isolated island nation is highly reliant on foreign tourism for its overall economic survival. Shortfall. Noun.
The struggling charity urgently needs an extra $10,000 to cover the unexpected budget shortfall this year. Grimly. Adverb. The tired police officer grimly delivered the extremely bad news to the anxiously waiting family members. Malnourished. Adjective. The medical team worked tirelessly to feed and treat the severely malnourished children rescued from the war zone. Translate into. Transport costs. Exorbitant food prices. Translated into.
10-3. PM Modi launches major development projects in Daman. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi successfully and grandly inaugurated the highly anticipated, newly constructed modern terminal building of Namo Airport, located in the rapidly growing Union Territory of Daman. This major inauguration was just one key component of a massive, comprehensive $2,970 crore development push explicitly aimed at completely overhauling the region's outdated infrastructure. The wide array of comprehensive projects officially launched encompass vital sectors, including modern healthcare, civil aviation, lucrative tourism, and essential public welfare. Modi powerfully emphasized in his speech that significantly improving transport connectivity will make regional travel much more convenient and simultaneously inject immense, fresh economic momentum into the local economy. Ultimately, this massive financial investment strongly reflects the central government's ongoing, dedicated commitment to greatly enhancing the ease of living and thoroughly modernizing transport facilities in much smaller regional Indian cities. Vocabulary. Inaugurate. Verb. 개장하다, 취임하게 하다. The city mayor will officially inaugurate the beautiful new community center next Monday morning. Component. Noun. 구성 요소, 부품. Honest and open communication is a universally recognized key component of a successful, long-lasting marriage. Overhaul. Verb. 철저히 점검, 개편하다. The struggling tech company urgently needs to overhaul its heavily outdated customer service system entirely in Mary. Encompass. Verb. 포함하다, 아우르다. The extremely difficult final exam will encompass absolutely all the dense topics covered throughout the semester. Vital. Adjective. 필수적인, 생명 유지와 관련된. Clean water and adequate sunlight are absolutely vital for the healthy growth of most common household plants. Lucrative. Adjective. 수익성이 좋은, 돈이 되는. The clever entrepreneur successfully turned his small, simple hobby into a highly lucrative international business. Momentum. Noun. 가속도, 원동력, 활력. The underdog political campaign gained incredible, unstoppable momentum immediately after the televised debate. Enhance. Verb. 형상시키다, 높이다. Adding fresh, aromatic herbs will greatly and noticeably enhance the overall flavor profile of the chicken soup. Modernize. Verb. 현대화하다. The old regional hospital finally received sufficient government funding to fully modernize its outdated surgical equipment. Explicitly. Adverb. 명시적으로, 노골적으로. The warning label on the chemical bottle explicitly states that the contents are highly toxic if swallowed. 시사용어 해설. Overhaul, 전면 개편, 분해 수리는 원래 기계를 완전히 뜯어 고친다는 뜻이지만 경제나 정책 기사에서는 낡은 법안이나 인프라 구조를 완전히 새롭게 뜯어 고친다는 긍정적이고 혁신적인 의미로